Well, it is that time of year again, folks. Yes, the holidays are upon us. And yeah, it's all very exciting and stuff. But, we both know I'm talking about the season for year-end ranking lists, right? Of course we are. Time for me to give you my top 20 prog albums of 2025. Coming right up. Hey there, Prog Noggins. Happy holidays to everybody. Dave here. Welcome to Bleeding Edge. We are at the end of the year, and as I mentioned, it is time for me to give you my list of the 20 top prog albums this year. And to make it a little easier to digest so you don't get too full too quickly, I'm going to give them to you in two parts. So today, we're going to deal with the bottom half, which of course means numbers 20 through 11. And yes, I know, I've been reviewing and scoring albums all year. And if you followed along, God bless you. But if you followed along and you kept track, you can likely make some pretty accurate guesses of where things are going to land. At the same time, don't get carried away with that, because there were a lot of ties to break. And there are albums that, since I reviewed them, have grown or shrunk, in my estimation, since I scored them. So, things could have changed. And just for fun, I've also included several on this list, which I did not publish reviews for. So, definitely some surprises to be found. Hopefully, there'll be good surprises. We'll see. So, without further ado, let's jump into the list, starting, of course, at number 20. Yes, Jonas Lindberg and The Other Side, the album's Time Frames. This was one of the many very late arrivals this year. This one came in on the tail end of November, pretty much. This one is a good, solid, straight-ahead prog album with a nice, cool rock edge to it. Heavy guitars at times, but also they don't hesitate to mix in the acoustics and the keys and all the other stuff. They jump around a little bit in varying their style, both musically and vocally. We've got more than one lead vocalist, female included there, although Jonas usually is the primary guy. But they do a lot of nice stuff, and they keep things interesting, and they keep things charging forward. And it's just a nice, energetic album that just leaves you feeling pretty good when it's all said and done. And it's definitely what I would call a worthy follow-up to their critically acclaimed previous release. So there you go. There's number 20. The next one I did not actually review this year, Darwin, Distorted Mirror. This is one, admittedly, it didn't get reviewed because I almost overlooked it entirely. It came out at a period of time in the fall when there was a lot of things happening. I had seen some of their songs pop up here and there in my release radar on Spotify. But hey, I had a lot of distractions. October is a very busy month for me. November, got a lot of things kind of crammed in. I had my review plans set by that point and kind of didn't even notice the album had come out until I got back from traveling. Boom. Hey, here's this album. And it's this really cool, really energetic, nice melodic, hard rock edge prog that just flows seamlessly from that heavy guitar and distortion into like stuff that borders on metal to traditional prog to like Steely Dan flavored jazz pop. And throughout the whole thing, there's all this wonderful stellar musicianship with enough soloing to satisfy any virtuoso junkie, but still not really losing the smooth accessibility of its jazz pop flavors at the same time. It's really for everything going on, for all the complexity and all the massive musical chops thrown in your face and in your ears all at once, it is something that never quite loses track of the point of being accessible, being immediate, and being melodic. And I really dig this thing. It's got some really juicy playing throughout. Everybody is just top-notch artist-wise and Really, I'm glad I didn't miss this one entirely, but this one's a real banger. So, and also, as far as I can tell, a little bit of an overlooked late year gem. So don't you miss out on it too. Next we have ORK, Orc. I don't know what they like to say it as. I've never heard it spoken out loud. I've only read it. I did do a brief prog shot on this very early in the year. This is Fire Hose of Falsehoods, and talking about albums that I think were largely overlooked by the prog media. And I don't understand why, other than the fact that, I don't know, maybe they got caught up in what I got caught up in. Familiarity with Orc over the years, kind of knew what they did, and the first single, I think, didn't grab me as something that was incredibly interesting, and then I lost track of it, to be perfectly honest. I lost track of it for a while, until months later. I finally got back to it. This is a rocker that blends a real nice prog metal edge with grunge-era attitude, and it's highlighted by these impressive vocals that recall Chris Cornell at times, if you can believe that. And I think that just adds to the whole grunge attitude. It's got these crunchy riffs, insistent grooves, atmospheric vocals that just make this one a uniquely impressive rocker that just popped out in the middle of the year. And I'm so glad I got back to it, because this has turned out to be, as you can tell, one of my favorites of the year. Fun fact I learned just this year. Drummer Pat Mastelotto was a member of Mr. Mister back in the 80s. All big part of my high school soundtrack. Who knew? I see myself in relation to it all. Coming in at number 17, where people may question my sanity, Steven Wilson and the Overview. Yes, they might question my sanity. They might cry heresy. I might get pilloried for this. I don't know that I've placed this one as low as I have, because I know it has come up very high in some lists out there, and understand Classic Rock Magazine named it the album of the year. Okay. Hey, I love Steven, you know that. I love Porcupine Tree, of course. And I was very excited to hear that for this album, he was going to be moving away from his recent electronic flirtations, we'll call them, although I did quite enjoy the Harmony Codex, and move a little bit more back towards prog and heavy prog, so to speak. This album's got some fantastic songs, a pair of fantastic songs, especially his collaboration with Andy Partridge of XTC. Some fantastic jams in it there, just like lovely instrumental breaks. Everybody's on fire. But overall, I got to say, as a whole, it was a little bit of a letdown for me. I think my hopes were higher than it turned out to be. There were some aspects of it that felt a little padded, and I wanted more of those other two elements, the great songs and the great jams. I can say, too, that what helped grow this one in my estimation was seeing it performed live. That enhances the whole project. That was really quite impressive watching it played live, and especially Randy McStein that night. Absolutely on fire. And as usual, I think Steven's music really tends to translate better live than it does on the album. I believe the term I had used when I was talking with the guys at Progressive Palaver was that sometimes I think maybe his production is a little too urbane and takes off some of the edges that I enjoy and maybe keeps some of those best parts from shining their best. Who would have thought that I would sit here and possibly question Steven Wilson's production and engineering? Yeah, maybe you should question my sanity. I don't know. Either way, still one of the best albums this year, even if it didn't necessarily meet my perhaps unreasonably lofty expectations. So if that helps, great. If not, I will wait for the villagers with the torches and pitchforks to show up at my door. At number 16 there, we've got IQ coming in with Dominion. Now, this to me was a really impressive achievement by IQ after all these years they've been together and still putting out some great music. This album is just lovely with a lot of great melodic passages, and they're interspersed with these hard rock orchestrations. I say orchestrations because it's rock, but it always feels very grand, and it always feels like there's so much happening in a big way. These what's the word I'm looking for? Contradictions out there. The mysticality that meets the militaristic aggression in the drums. There's a combination of melancholy with optimism. And the album really just covers a lot of ground, both musically and thematically. And I just really found myself enjoying this quite a bit. It stands out so nicely as a whole. And as a matter of fact, I feel almost like the songs do better as part of that whole than they do separately. Could be a wacky part of me, but I don't know. There's something I think I found in the journey that is this album that has always been very stirring for me when I listen to it. So great stuff from a band that has been doing it for 40 years at this point.
One more threshold crossed, and once again I fall to my knees.
Next we have Lunatic Soul, The World Under Unsung. Marius Duda wrapping up his 8-album cycle here. This is an album full of music that is rhythmic and mysterious and brooding and absolutely putting all of his varied and many talents on full display. Marius really, I felt, came to this album very inspired, and I felt he really worked very hard on it. I do know this was several years in the making, and you can tell that the craftsmanship is there, and repeated listens really bring out the details in this hypnotic musical journey he's got in here going on. And I really found that I wasn't sure what to expect. I've been familiar with Lunatic Soul, but I think for me, this was my favorite of his albums. I almost want to say their albums when I say the name Lunatic Soul, but it is Marius's solo project that he does. In this case, once again, Riverside's frontman shows us what else is on his mind outside of the band, and frankly, I think we're all better off for it.
Mirror on the sea.
Next, we have Gazpacho, Magic 8 Ball, another one of those late-year albums, that flood of impressive releases we got in November, late October. Just an expansive and gorgeous album in its production. Frankly, giving Steven Wilson a run for his money in the production value and the atmospherics of it all. This thing's just filled to the gills with these fragile soundscapes, all lovingly crafted by masters of creating atmospherically creative music. And that's exactly what Gazpacho is, and they came back here after a 5-year hiatus with a vengeance, I would say. Doesn't hurt at all that it carries a conceptually dense narrative and ruminations about fate and our impulses to throw our destiny away to random chance, as we sometimes do for all the varied and sometimes wacky reasons that we do it. We just gonna give our lives up to the flip of a coin, or just hope everything's all just gonna work out in the end and all be fine. Sometimes it doesn't happen that way, but some really great music in there, ear candy all the way, and the band keeps it interesting throughout. They definitely spent that 5-year hiatus quite well. Coming in at number 13, we have Astronoid with Stargod. Now, this is a band I was very happy to see return, even though they didn't really return from as long as I thought it had been. I lost track and totally missed an album altogether there, but this is a great place to have picked up. Their continuing evolution shows them bringing just a bit more compositional focus and concision to their music. And I think it really benefits the album. It has a bit more pop polish, if you can believe that, this time around, with the focus on melody and immediacy and memorable choruses and stuff. Lots of high energy, banging power chords, and lots of atmospheric uplift in their hopeful meditation on responding to grief and loss with resilience. It's a bright spot of major key brightness among all the minor chord seriousness that typically populates the prog world. in the prog metal world. So really cool to hear these guys back. They are such a breath of fresh air amongst all the other stuff. They stand out with their own uniqueness. And if you have followed me around for a while, you certainly know there's one of those things I love is a unique sound. And the more unique you are in many ways, the more it just sticks in my brain. These guys have that in spades.
And we had to deal with the world as it is, to look past.
Next, we have Hats Off Gentlemen, It's Adequate with the Uncertainty Principle. I'm going to call them Hogia from here on out because it's a mouthful and it's easier to say that way. This is an album that came out very early in the year, and a lot of people might have forgotten by now it came out in 2025 because it's been around for a while. There are a few bands out there that bring the intellectual chops to their music that Hogia do. And this album is absolutely brimming with intellectualism. The historical stories of individual resoluteness in the face of tough choices seems to be the theme overall, but it spends all this time digging into the history of the nuclear age, from the creation of the atom bomb to the paranoia and near misses, frankly, of the Cold War. So much to learn, and so many ways in which the context of these stories help people reflect on their own lives and their own choices. Really, really cool stuff. And it's all backed with their signature brand of Pink Floyd-inspired prog with heavy doses of hard rock urgency throughout. These guys, honestly, are quietly putting out some of the best prog you can find. And they absolutely, positively deserve a lot more attention than they've been getting.
Never get over the way that you brought down the moon. Bring out the flowers, stars we were sending.
And finally, wrapping up this first half of my top 20 prog albums of 2025, we have the inimitable Flower Kings with Love, capital L-O-V-E, Love. Royna Stolt and company returned this year with a very simple and very direct message that bared a lot of repeating about finding our common humanity and doing more than just coexisting, but maybe finding a way to at least value one another, if not love one another. The title, frankly, says it all. They had a definite purpose here. This one contains really some of their most immediate and memorable tunes in recent memory for me. Whether it's the plaintive How Can You Leave Us Now, or the raucous opener We Claim the Moon, or the obligatory mini-epic to close the album, Considerations. It's all such great stuff. And Royna and Hasse, in sharing the lead vocal duties, are just in great voice throughout the album. And they just keep bringing these memorable tunes and again, kind of like Astronoid, a lot of uplift here. They're bringing the positivity to a type of music, to a genre that oftentimes can be very coldly intellectual, or can be very serious, or even sometimes very dark and cynical. This is, for me, like almost the opposite of the way Stephen Wilson's The Overview described itself, as the idea of looking out over the world from like the moon or from orbit and seeing how small it all is and how insignificant we all are. And Royna Stolt and the Flower Kings are saying, people, we are humanity. We should love one another. We are amazing. We are beautiful, and we need more love, not more distance. So in some ways, they are bookends of the same train of thought, but are on opposite ends, I guess. I don't know if that was the message Stephen wanted to get across, but I feel pretty confident about the message Royna Stolt and the Flower Kings wanted to get across. So there we go. That is the first half. What are your thoughts about that first half? What surprised you? What pissed you off? What did I get right? What did I get wrong? In your opinion, of course. They're all opinions. As they say, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. They all stink. That's how it is. I didn't make that up, and I'm sure most of you have heard that somewhere before. If you didn't, you're welcome. So, meanwhile, drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on this so far. It's only the first half. We've got another half coming up. And while you're doing that, don't forget to drop a like, maybe, and hey, maybe even subscribe to the channel while you're doing both of those. It would be great to have you along for 2026. So, next time, as I mentioned, I will be back to finish up my top 20 prog albums of 2025 with the top 10. and you'll get to learn my album of the year. That will be coming along very soon. Until then, this is me telling you, never fear to deviate from the norm, and keep it prog.